group. My name is Ajidadi, and my friend is Juan Alejandro, Ahmad Gibran, and Kartika Dalian. Now we will interview about post-pandemic challenge teaching. Okay, now we with Mr. Abdullah for object interview. Okay, start. Mr. Abdullah, good evening. Thank you for your time. We will ask a few questions about post-pandemic teaching challenge. Like you know, Indonesia was through pandemic virus in 2019, and it's so hurtful because can kill a human. And maybe Indonesia is 2 years in red zone. So how Mr. Rahmatullah faithful enthusiasm and spirit learning after 2 years online learning.
So I have to answer the question after pandemic or during the pandemic? After the pandemic. So as we know that the pandemic COVID-19 give massive impact to the learning process, where all the process of learning was conducted by online learning. So the spirit that we do after the pandemic is that we try to design the learning process to be interactive in the classroom, because most of the students maybe they are like yet to learn online Zoom learning, for example. So in our class we have to design the learning process to be interactive, fun learning, so the students do not work in our learning process. But in this case, we also integrate some kind of technology because the students already face the technology integration in the classroom. For example, like using games, quizzes, and maybe online survey to ask some questions related to the learning process. Because what they already done several years during the pandemic is that conducting the learning process via Zoom, where the media, the method used by the teacher maybe mostly like lecture method. Lecture method means that most of the learning process dominantly conducted by the lecture. The lecture most explain material maybe, while the students just sit down and listen to the material. So I think it's very different case after the pandemic. You will sit down in the class, receiving the material. Now the way that the lecturer handle the classroom is that we decide to be interactive class. We use, for example, quizzes, we use Kahoot, in order to involve all the students. Because I realized that the students' mindset also changed after the pandemic, where before the pandemic, the students had more spirit in coming to class. During the pandemic, during the pandemic for 2 years, the students feel like, I think, in order to get education, it's very simple. You just open your Zoom. That changed their mindset. So after the pandemic, they are lazy to come to school, coming to the classroom. So the way, as a lecturer, I try to design and find very interactive method to involve my students in the class. I sometimes also combine Zoom and online class, that and doing online and offline setting in order, because we cannot even deny that all the students also need the process of online learning, some facilitations in Zoom, for example, some application, like Classroom has great chat box. Yeah, I think the students need that kind of applications to be interactive on the setting. I think that's my perspective, the way that I handle the students. I choose to learn, to teach, but in order to support my enthusiasm, yeah, in conducting the learning process, I designed the class fun, learning, interactive, and integrated technology. I sometimes also instruct my students to use AI, like artificial intelligence, to find out the idea, but in this case, not use artificial intelligence as a whole. We integrate it in order to get much more perspective, maybe more ideas to be explaining. I think that's
Okay, so good. But we have just 6 questions again. Yes, okay, you should use.
you might work your text.
Given the rapid shift in teaching modalities, what balance should be struck between synchronous and asynchronous learning to support diverse learner needs?
Okay. Synchronous and asynchronous. Synchronous means that we can interact with the students, maybe by online setting or online classroom. Asynchronous means that we just give tasks to the students and then they have that whole assignment. So the way that I handle synchronous and asynchronous after the pandemic, I think I need to look at what we call a good application, good web, to design asynchronous. Like what I have done is that I try to make a Google Classroom. Other students assignment to give that, but in order to design synchronous learning, we need to have a model. We need to have a model which has a good instruction. Because the students cannot even conduct exactly the instruction. So in asynchronous, like Google Classroom, giving the assignment, you conduct the class. There is a clear instruction what you are going to do with that assignment, and so all the students can involve in that assignment. In synchronous, I usually use Zoom, Google Meet, yeah, in order to teach the students, so they can communicate actively in that classroom. But right now, I mostly do that learning process in the class. Sometimes I use online setting, like synchronous and asynchronous. If the students need more class, you can that. This way.
The question is, what are some equity and accessibility
most problematic issue I've faced after the pandemic is that students' involvement. Students' involvement is that the way that the students take part in the class, for example, asking the questions, making clarifications, give some arguments. After the pandemic, I think that all of my students do not realize how important these questions classrooms or even the learning process because they always sit down in the online setting. Where online setting, yeah, you just accept the material. You just accept the material after that coming that sleep and then accept the material. Maybe you are lazy to ask the question. Yeah. Because you also use artificial intelligence, for example, to ask the questions to get the information. So in offline setting, like right now that you are doing, you are lazy to give questions. You are lazy to give clarifications or giving some additional information to your friend about the material. Because we face that, I think I can ask artificial intelligence. I can ask Google, yeah, to ask my problem, to fix my problem. So the way I fix this problem, the way I overcome this problem in the classroom, I sometimes give some simple questions in order to make my students realize how important our learning process today. For example, I'm teaching reading for academic purpose. So I ask my students, what is reading for academic purpose? How important is it to improve your speaking skills, for example, to improve your listening and other skills? So I give questions to my students in order to make them realize that what we are studying is important for my future. So they will ask some questions related reading for academic purpose, for example. The techniques, maybe, yeah, how to comprehend text, and so on and so forth. And I sometimes also combine this learning process to be a collaborative learning because I realized that some of my students maybe have a good IQ in the classroom, have a capability in the classroom. So I try to integrate the smartest one with the worst one. The worst one means that they just silent in the classroom. So I try to combine them in order to have collaboration in conducting the assignment. So and sometimes what I have in the classroom is that I give topic, I give quizzes in order to make them more fun. Yeah. Because my subject, reading for academic purpose, I think it's very serious subject. So I try to integrate with some games or some activities, which is very interactive.
Okay, next. Your question.
Okay, thank you. So, sir, what are the biggest challenges faced by teachers in restoring student speaking confidence after online learning during the pandemic?
Okay. About speaking,
Yes.
the problem faced by the lecturer or the students?
This is by teachers.
By teachers as a lecturer.
Yeah.
Okay. In online setting, yeah, we usually speak, yeah, with some concept like we put some concept like what we are going to talk to the students, yeah, in order to be able to understand the material. But in offline setting, we do not see any concept. So the challenges is that we need to prepare well. We need to prepare what we are going to teach, yeah, what we are going to explain to the students, yeah, because you cannot see the screen, for example, in front of you, yeah, except the material on slide. So the challenges is that we need to prepare more preparations before coming to the classroom. And the way I fix that problem is that I try to read my material into the more understandable one. So if I got that this material, I think my students very difficult to understand or to accept. Yeah, I try to design to be more understandable and accessible. Like I try to send the material in an easy way. Because every single subject has different characteristics and maybe the level of explaining to students. In my perspective, the way I fix that is bring it easily, bring it more understandable to the students, so the students will be easy to catch up with the material. I think that's the way I design the classroom.
The second question is, how can teachers use effective learning strategies to address students speaking difficulties after the pandemic?
Okay. The way I train my students to be able to speak in the classroom, I usually use oral techniques. Oral techniques means assertion, examples, linking, and assertion, reasoning, example, link. Assertion means they need to know what they are going to talk. For example, why do you like handphone? So the students may say, I like handphone because it is useful for my everyday life. So it's not just about having a session. That is a session. A session in Indonesia we call pernyataan. Pernyataan means movement or explanation. So why is important for everyday life? So that is listening. So that's the techniques, session and listening. So coming to the listening is that the reason why you say is important for our life. So they will explain, because I can call my parents, I can send chat, I can order anything with the application by phone. That is the reason. So coming after reason, there's an example. Example means that you need to prove the example of your explanation. For example, using WhatsApp as application in my phone to chat or to call my parents. Using Grab to order food, to order motorcycle, to order transportation, to make my activities easy. That's the example. So there is a session, pernyataan, and then there is the reasoning, the reason behind why you say it's important for your life, and then there is example. Example means evidence, pembuktian. What is the example of how do you call your parents by phone? Using WhatsApp, for example. Why is important? Because we can order food by Grab, for example. And then there is a link back. Link back means by your explanation, example, reason, example, what is the link? What is the correlation between your example and your reason? For example, they will conflict. Therefore, by that example, I like phone because phone is useful for my life. So they will link back to the topic that we are talking.
Last question from Kartika Wian.
Thank you, sir. So my question is, how can teacher improve the quality of post-pandemic learning by integrating technology, developing their professional skills, and implementing innovative teaching strategies?
Okay. After the pandemic, I think that all the training, all the seminar, webinar, more easy to get. Yeah, easy to get. Like webinar, we can apply for the training online to improve our professionalism. Yeah. Like how to design, how to make learning applications. We can learn from online. Now we can access that. Before pandemic, I think it's difficult to find that. During the pandemic, it changes. Yeah. During the pandemic, it changed because all the people try to design online or learning process. Yeah, to be online sector. So now it's easy. Yeah, I join webinar. I can ask artificial intelligence how to design the class to be more interactive. So I think the way that I learn is by access online learning, webinar, seminar online seminar, and then through some application like artificial intelligence, augmented reality, and so on and so forth. Just like that.
So my last question is, what are the main challenges faced by teacher in teaching post-pandemic, and how can they overcome these challenges by designing online learning materials, developing relevant curricula, and enhancing their professional skills?
I think the most difficult part is about the time. The time, because the lecture has more schedule. Like besides teaching in the classroom, they also need to do like what we call pengabdian kepada masyarakat, ya, community services, pengabdian kepada masyarakat, community services, and also publish the research. So I think all the activities need more attention. Therefore, we have like we do not have more time to actually improve professionalism like we ask. So the way that we conduct, the way that we improve professionalism skills is by online learning. We learn via online, we join seminar, webinar, because without online learning, we also difficult to arrange time. We difficult because imagine that, like me, I teach many classes. I teach in Universitas Sulawesi Barat, I teach in Universitas Terbuka, and other places. And in the same time, I need to go to the society to conduct community services. And then besides, I also need to develop my teaching materials. And I need to write my research and publish in international or national or international journals. So all the activities need more time. So the way that we use a simple one, we just do it online. Right? Just
I think that's all the question from our side. Okay. Thank you so much, and thank you for your insight on invaluable. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.